In today's video, I'm sharing with you my 2025 TBR for now. Let's get right into it. Okay friends, I did a video like this last year and it was a lot of fun, so I figured I would do another one. And this TBR, I'm just saying it straight up at the top, this is probably not going to be permanent. It's not going to be for sure, but it is my TBR hopeful for at least a few months of 2025. So my intro was probably a little bit misleading, but I do have at least a handful or like 6 books. I keep looking at them. I have like 6 books that I do want to get to in the first few months of the year at the very least. But we'll see how things go, because if you may or may not know, I'm a massive mood reader and it's really bad. It's a blessing and a curse, because it's good when I'm reading something and I'm in the mood and it just fits the vibe of my moodiness really well. It's like such a fantastic experience, but it's also a curse because I can be immediately turned off by a book simply because of my mood or the time of the year or the season, and then I'll want to drop a book, I'll want to move on to another book, pick up another book, buy another book. It's a whole thing. So mood readers know the struggle, but I'm hoping that I can at least get through these 6 books that I'll be sharing with you today in the first few months. As you all know from my previous videos last week, I am unemployed, so I really want to read from my shelves, the books that I have on my shelves already that I have not gotten to, as opposed to buying new books. But we'll see what happens in the latter half of the year, and I'll keep you updated along that entire thing. But let's jump right into it, and I'm starting with a book that's technically not part of my TBR anymore, but I just wanted to share a quick update with my fellow readers. I finally finished The Goldfinch. I finished it this morning, actually, so it is top of mind, and I have to say, this was a fantastic book. If you did not know, I started this book in November of 2020. Was it last year? Yeah, it was last November. So not 2024, 2023 is when I started this, and I just finished it. It is so freaking long. I am not a long book reader. I like to read short books that are like 250, 300 pages. This book is upwards to almost 800 pages. So it took me a really long time because of that, but also this book is extremely heavy. There's so much going on. It's dreadful, but all in all, I have to say I really, really enjoyed it. It was such a fantastic experience. I'm so glad to say that I finally finished this book, because it's pretty much a classic these days, a modern classic, and I get the hype. It's really, really phenomenal. So I do recommend, and if you're a big reader, like a big book reader, you'll go through this in no time, because it is a really fascinating story. But anyway, that has nothing to do with the TBR. Let's move on to what's actually on my TBR. The first one might be obvious because I gave you the caveat of me being a mood reader, but it is Eileen. And Eileen is about an unassuming yet disturbed young woman trapped between her role as her alcoholic father's caretaker in a home whose squalor is the talk of the neighborhood. I'm just reading a description off my computer over there. This is the first one on my TBR because, if you couldn't tell from the snowy scene, this takes place in the winter, and we're currently in the winter, so, you know, my moody vibes are aligning here. I think this actually takes place specifically during Christmas time, so I wish I read this in December, but I was still reading The Goldfinch, so, you know, things happened, but I still think it's okay. We're still in the midst of winter, so I think it should be fine. I've always wanted to read a story or a novel from this author, and I never have before, and I think this is one of the most popular books by this author, so I figured I would give it a try in the midst of winter. Things are just working out there, and so I'm really excited about this. This is a literary fiction book that is very dark, similar to The Goldfinch, if you couldn't tell. I'm really into literary fiction that's dark, heavy, and slightly erring to the side of spooky, because spooky is actually my favorite genre, like horror, thriller, mystery. But I do love to pick up a literary fiction that's dark and disturbing and eerie like this. So I'm excited to get into this, and it is short, so that's a plus for me as well. The next book I have on my list is another literary fiction novel that airs on the side of spooky. It's called A Certain Hunger, and you may recognize this if you've seen any of my other book videos, because I have talked about it before. I have mentioned like when I picked it up and when I wanted to read it, and I just haven't gotten to it, so hopefully I will get to it very soon. But A Certain Hunger is the story of a serial killer, Dorothy Daniels, a successful food writer who also eats men. So I feel like I don't need any more of an explanation there for you. This sounds creepy and weird, but also definitely not horror. It's literary fiction. And I think there's a lot of food writing in here, which I know is, somebody made a joke a long time ago. They were like, it's so funny that you're like stuck on the part about the food writing when this is definitely going to take you on a roller coaster when it comes to the serial killer part. But I'm excited to see the food writing in here, if there is a good amount of food writing in here. I'm assuming there is because it's about a food critic. So I'm excited to see that element play in here. I love the cover. The cover is what really enticed me in the beginning of, you know, ever picking this book up. So very excited about this one. Okay. The next book has been on my shelf for a really long time, and I'm shocked that I've never read it because this is one of my favorite authors of all time, and I talk about him all the time. Ian actually read this, and he said it was good, but I don't know why I never picked it up myself. It is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. You all know, I'm a huge fan of Stephen Graham Jones. I read a bunch of his books last year, so I figured I would throw this one into the mix because it's on my shelf and I still can't believe that I've never read it before. So many people love this book. So this one is about 4 members of the Blackfeet Nation as they come to terms with events that happened 10 years prior. I believe there's like a serial killer element in here as well, or something of the sort. It's definitely horror. This one is not so much literary fiction, it's definitely horror. And if you know anything about Stephen Graham Jones, that's his space. He is a horror nerd, and it shows so much in his writing. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited to get into a novel where I feel really comfortable and familiar with the writing style because I've read so much from Stephen Graham Jones. So this one is probably going to be a quick read for me, especially because it's small. So again, very excited. Okay, the next thing on my list is not something I have a physical copy of, but I would love to get your suggestions, your ideas, your recommendations. I would love to read something by Sally Rooney. Sally Rooney has been dubbed one of the greatest authors of our modern time, and I have never read a single thing by her. And I think that's a shame. I would really love to read something by Sally Rooney. It's just that I don't know where to start, especially because a lot of her books are on the thick side, and that really deters me. So keeping that in mind, if you have any recommendations as to where to start when it comes to Sally Rooney, let me know what book I should pick up by her first so that I get my first impression like set up by her, and I will definitely take your advice because I know nothing much about Sally Rooney other than the fact that there's only good things to be said about her and her writing. So let me know in the comments, and thank you in advance. But the next book I also don't have a physical copy of. I think it's on my Kindle, but I need to charge my Kindle. But it is Upstream by Mary Oliver, and this is a collection of essays from the beloved poet Mary Oliver. Fun fact, I went to college for creative writing. I have my degree in creative writing, and so I took a lot of creative classes, of course, and a lot of those classes were revolved around poetry, and I actually really love poetry. I can sit with a poem for days, weeks, months, and that's probably something I don't talk about much because I don't know why, but you know, I love poetry and I love Mary Oliver. So I think it would be really fantastic to read these collection of essays, especially right now where I am unemployed and I have the headspace to read something that could potentially inspire me creatively, inspire me in some other large picture type of way. And I've heard that this book is extremely inspiring and motivational, so I feel like it would be the perfect time to get into something like that. Another one that has been on my TBR for a really long time and I just never got into it, but I feel like now is a good time. Okay, and then the last book, which is not really a book, it's more of a guide, and I have started it before, but I just, you know, fell off of it. It is The Artist's Way. So The Artist's Way is a guide to helping people reignite their creative side. It's more so a guide to creative recovery, and it goes all into that in this book. But I've had this book for a while, and as you can see, there is a lot of tabs in here because I did start and I went through the first, I think, 3 or 4 weeks of it. It's a like a week program. It's a 12-week program. So I went through like a fraction of the program and then I just stopped. Life happened. I was getting really busy with work and stuff like that. But of course, as you all know, now that I'm unemployed and I'm focusing on art a lot right now, I think now would be the perfect time to get back into this. I don't know if I'm going to restart everything. I feel like I might. I feel like it would be good to do it from scratch again. But if not, then I'll just pick back off on I'm pretty sure it was the 4-week mark. And week 3. I was only 3 weeks in. So I feel like it's okay for me to start from scratch and just really, really focus in on it, because now I have the time and space to focus in on it and treat it like an actual course, like a college course almost. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited for the prospect of learning more and learning about art more. I talk a lot about this in my Slowing Down with Art series, so I won't be redundant, but this is a companion that I think would work perfectly with that series, with the journey that I'm currently on when it comes to art education. And it's a big goal for me in 2025 too. So this one has a much larger meaning and purpose in my life right now. So it's one that I feel like I need to not drop off again. So it's gonna be really important, even though it's technically not a book, like a novel, so to say, but it is a book and I am going through it and reading it word for word. So, you know, I do think it counts in part of this TBR. But that is my current list. So we went through 6 books exactly. And I kind of read about 1 book a month. So this should set me up for potentially the first 6 months of the year. We'll see. It might end up being shorter than that. I might end up like not reading, so it might end up being longer than that. We'll see, but I'll keep you updated if you are interested in my reading updates. I feel like I get some really good feedback from these videos, so that's why I continue making them. But you let me know in the comments your thoughts, your feelings about these books, your feelings about any books that I should pick up in this year. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today and hearing me nerd out about some books that I'm really excited for. What books are you excited for in this year? Let me know down below. I would love to check out and see what you are interested in reading, even if it's nothing near the genre that I like to read. I am fully aware that I have a very strange subgenre that I'm into. So no worries about that. But thank you once again, and I will talk to you in the next video.